Hi, Bez Hashem. Today's daf is Masechta Avodah Zarah, daf Yud Tes, number 19. And we're going to begin from daf Yud Ches Amud Beis. Let's make it bigger over here. By the Hagoyes Bach. It starts the topic that we're going to be discussed for a good part of the day. And that is like the topic, the Gemara starts Tanur Rabbanan, right where by the Hagoyes Bach. So the Gemara is discussing over here. Okay, Tanur Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Ein holchin litartiyos, you're not allowed to go to an amphitheater or a theater of Goyim where they have sports events. And Kirkisoiyas sounds like a circus. So the reason is not because of what's going on there, is they prepare things for Avodah Zarah that they're going to use, or make people donate things for Avodah Zarah. That's so it's like a missionary event. They were a mayor. So says Rav Meir. Some say like this: if it's a place that they prepare things for Avodah Zarah, you're right. Then it's prohibited because you might do something for the Avodah Zarah. Or Malcolm She'em Zavlim Sham, if it's a place that they don't do anything for Avodah Zarah, it's still asar. So there, the Gemara gives you another reason. Why would it be asar? But name Moshav Leitzin. It's a place where scoffers, it puts you into a cynical mood. When you watch these kind of events, if you watch gladiators or something like that, it puts you in a very cynical mood. And therefore, that is prohibited. That's called a lates. So therefore, you're not taking anything seriously, and you're always cynical about everything. My benai, what would be the difference between Rav Meir and Chachamim? Both say it's also to attend these tartirois and kirkisois. Rab Chanina, Mesura, Nasav and Nasav Ika benai. If you happen to have done business, what's the din with the benefit, the profits of that business you did at that stadium? If it's because they did something for Avodah Zarah, so Rav Meir says they all have Avodah Zarah there, so your profits are asa. According to Chachamim, only if you know for sure they do things there for Avodah Zarah. But if you're not sure, then it's just a concern about being a late. So then the Rabbanan said that the money is permitted. Hi, Sheldon. We just began. It's stuff Yud Ches Amud Beis.
Okay.
Just the bottom of the Chagoy Sabach, as you can see.
Mm-hmm.
Rab Shimon ben Pazi. We're discussing over here doing things that put you into a very cynical mood. So in those days, going to the theater and going into their cultural events put people in what's called a lates mood, which puts you into a cynical mood. Darash Rab Shimon ben Pazi. The mind says, what does the pasuk say? Ashri ish, lucky is the person. Ashlei holach batzas rishoim. He didn't go in the council of a wicked person, and on the path of somebody who does sins, he didn't stay. And in a place where scoffers sit and discuss, he didn't sit there. That's the first pasuk in Tehillim. So the Gemara asks a question: if he never went to these places, then where did he stop? If he never went in the first place, if he didn't stop there, how did he end up sitting there? So, and if he didn't sit there, when did he become a scoffer? Teaches you human nature. Shim halach, if you just go there, if you pass by that place where the wrestling match is, okay, Seifel Lamed, you're going to end up staying there for a period of time. If you're going to stay there for a period of time, Seifel Leishav, you're going to buy a ticket and sit there. Then Yashav, you're going to sit there, Seifel Lalutz, you're going to become a scoffer. Then Lots, if you do become a scoffer, Amalav Akosif, the Torah tells you, if you acquire wisdom, you acquired it for yourself. But if you become a late, you're at your own fault. Amar Rabbi Elazar said, Kol Hamisloitis, anybody who scoffs and is cynical, So Yisurim Baran Olaf. You're bringing about upon yourself suffering. Shenema, because the pasuk says, "Va'ato altis loitzatzu." Don't be a scoffer and cynical. Penyachzeku moisreichem, so that it will strengthen moisreichem your suffering. Ama luhura aval rabbanim. Rava said to his students, I guess, "B'matusa, I beg from you. Be'inim enaychu the Don't become a scoffer. Don't become a scoffer." Because if you become cynical and you're making fun of things and you have this kind of humor, the loylaisa like yisur, it's going to bring upon yourself suffering. Or sad clown, or sad comedian. Amar of Katina said, Kol hamis loitzitz, anybody who scoffs, mizoinoisav mismaatin. His parnasa gets smaller and smaller. Shenama, I guess people heard his act before and he's not being hired as much. Shenama, moshach yodai es loitzitzim. God removes his hands, so to speak, from giving parnasa to those that have litzanas. Amar Rab Shimon ben Lakish says, Kol hamisloitzitz, if you continue on this path of scoffing, noifel begehenim, suddenly you drop into Gehenim. Before you know it, it doesn't go in steps. You find yourself in a hellish place. Shenema, the pasuk says, Zayd Yahir late Shemoy. A proud and haughty man, he's called a late. Oisei be'evras Zadai. He acts in arrogant wrath. The ain evra ela Gehenim. Shnema yom evra hayom mahu. So the word evra can mean Gehenim. So if he's a late, then he's just making himself, preparing himself to fall into Gehenim. Amar Rabbi Yishai says, "Call hamisyoyer." Anybody who acts haughty, right? Noifel begehenim. He falls into Gehenim. Shnema. Zayd Yohir late Shemoy Oisib ever Zardoin. They ain't ever Elegahanim Shnema Yoim ever Yahayamahu. So anybody who is haughty and doesn't have awareness about it, he will fall into Gehenna very fast. Okay? The way down goes faster than the way up. Amar Rab Chaniloi ben Chaniloi. Bar Chaniloi. I don't know what kind of name it is. Rabbi Chaniloi and the son of Chaniloi said, anybody who scoffs, he's not only causing his audience, if he's doing an act of letzanos, so he's not affecting just his audience, but actually he's causing destruction to the world. Don't do letzanos, because you're causing destruction, deep destruction for the entire world. Rabbi Lazar said, Kashi, it's so difficult to be a late. First you start off with suffering, and then you're totally destroyed. Again, Darsh Rab Shimon ben Pazi. Lucky is the person that can go to the amphitheaters and the circuses of Goyim. Again, that you're entertained in a way that brings about a bad attitude to you. A person who didn't attend bestial contests, which is like they used to have dogs capture animals, and as a contest. And B'chol Ma'aseim, Rashi says, L'shem Schoik V'simcha, they do it to make people laugh and happy, but it's a certain type of happiness. It's a certain type of wry entertainment. He didn't sit at a bar with bad company, people who are constantly, saying bad things. So if a person says, okay, you're taking away all my entertainment, I can't go to a movie, can't go to a theater, can't go to a bar. I should go and incite myself to go to sleep. I'll take a NyQuil and go to sleep. Talmud Bavli, the Torah tells you, I have another eitzah. When you're free, not working, his Torah, you should be meditating it on day and night, or join the visual Daf Yomi. Amar Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani Rabbi Yonason. Rabbi Yonason said he touched the pasuk this way: Asher Yisha Shalei Halach Batzas Rishoyim Zeh Avram Avinu. That refers to Avram Avinu Shalei Halach Batzas Anshe Dor HaPlaga. Avram Avinu didn't follow the Anshe Dor HaPlaga that lived in his time. Shur Shoyim Hayu Shnema Havanivdu Lanair. They built that tower. Avram Avinu didn't follow them. Uvderech Chatam Lo Amad Shalei Amad Bamidas Sodom. He didn't stand with the people of Sodom, who were sinners. Shnema, Vanches Doim Roim Chatam L'Shem Oid. Moshev Leitzim L'Yashav L'Yashav B'Moshev Anshe Plishtim. Nation of Sonim Hayu. Shnema V'Hi Ketav Libam V'Yomer Kil L'Shim Shav Yisachet Lanu. So basically, what the Gemara just got through saying, Avram Avinu encountered these types of people in his lifetime, people who are spiritually misguided, like the Anshe Dara Flaga. People who are sinning with their bodies, and then there are people who are just entertaining themselves with unproductive things like the Plishtim, and Avram Avinu didn't follow any one of them. Then we darshan the pasuk like this: Asher Yish Yoreis Hashem. The Torah tells you, the Tehillim tells you, praiseworthy is somebody who fears God, the man that fears God. Ashrei Ish, Ashrei Isha. That means just the man who fears God should be praised, and not a woman. A woman should also fear God. Amarav Amram Amarav. It means like this: Ashrei mi sha'isa tshuva kashu ish. It refers to a man, a young guy, who does tshuva and recognizes his creator while he's still strong enough. In other words, he knows that he has all these desires for sin, and yet he does tshuva at that age when he's young enough and still has that drive to do sin, and he holds himself back. That's when the true tshuva happens, because he's in the same power that he committed the sin. With that same power, he's overpowering and not doing this thing. Refers to a man who overpowers his inclination like a man. That's what an ish means. An ish is it takes power to overpower your yetzer. And yetzer is not necessarily a sexual thought. It could be a jealous thought, an anger thought, a complaint, etc., etc. And somebody get control of that monkey brain like a man. B'mitzvaysav chafes miyad. He desires, the pasuk continues, he desires God's mitzvahs. That's his only desire. Amar Ablaza b'mitzvaysav. He desires God's mitzvahs. The loy b'schar mitzvahs. He's not doing it to obtain a reward. That's what we learned in the Mishnah of us. Antigonus used to say, don't be like servants that serve their master on condition they get a reward. That your goal should be not to get a reward. Yes, you could look for a good times, but if God doesn't fulfill what you're requesting, that doesn't mean you're going to abstain from doing his mitzvahs. No matter what, you're doing his mitzvahs. And that's called mitzvah sov. For the sake of the mitzvahs, you're doing the mitzvah. Now the pasuk continues, ki im b'taras Hashem chaftzai. Pasuk tells you that a praiseworthy person is in Taras Hashem is his desire. The Torah of God is his desire. What does it mean, his desire? Amarav, ein odem loy mitara elami mokam shli bechafetz. A person should not learn Torah only where you feel most motivated to do so. In other words, a person should learn a part of Torah that he's not motivated to do. If a person's not up to studying Kiddush HaChodesh or something that requires a lot of math, then he shouldn't be studying that. He should be studying something that's more motivating to him. Shunema, ki im b'soyres Hashem cheftzai. Yerushalayim, because Torah, there are parts of Torah that appeal to one type of brain and not to another type of brain. You got to find what works for you. So the Gemara gives you an example. Levi Rab Shimon b'Rebbe Yashv Kamei the Rebbe. Levi and Rab Shimon, the son of Rebbe, sat in front of Rebbe. The Kapaski Sidra, they finished Chumash. Salak Sifri, they finished the book. So now they're discussing what part of Tanakh they're going to learn. You see, they learned Tanakh. Levi Amma Leisalam Mishlei. I would like to learn Mishlei. Shimon b'Rebbe Amma Leisalam Tilim. I'd like to learn Tilim. Kafila Levi I said the Tehillim. Shimon Rebbe won out, and Levi forced himself to learn Tehillim. So Levi did not want to learn Tehillim. But Kimati Hachim, when they came to the pasuk, Ki im b'soyres Hashem they got to the pasuk Soyres Hashem Cheftzoi, Parish Rebbe v'Amar Rabbi explained to them, Ein Adam loy mitayra el mimokam shli b'chafetz. A person shouldn't learn Torah only where his heart finds desire. So Levi was getting bored of this, or he didn't want to learn any more Tehillim. Levi, so Levi said, Rebbe, you gave me permission to stop this learning and go where I wanted to learn. And I wanted to learn Mishlei. Says the Gemara, Amar Avdimi, Amar Bar Chama, a person who works toils in Torah, right? So then HaKadosh Baruch Hu does his desires. In other words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes away the distractions. Shenema ki Mesaris Hashem cheftzai. If his desire is this, then cheftzai, his desires are taken care of. Once he busies himself with Taras Hashem, cheftzai, all his desires are taken care of. Amar Rava says, La'ilam yid adam Torah, person should learn Torah b'makoin sheli b'chafetz, in the yeshiva that his heart desires. You can't force a kid to learn in a place where it's not working for him. You have to take the person's opinion into account, and that's a person should be in a place that the place where his heart wants to. Shenama ki im b'saris Hashem cheftzai. Wherever his desire it will be, that's where he'll be most successful in learning Torah Hashem. V'amar Rava says, Betchila tik nikras al shmoy shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In the beginning, before you learn, the Torah is called God it's God's Torah. In other words, you don't really own it. But when you work hard on it, nikras al shemoy, then it becomes your Torah. Shnema, the Parasik says, but Torah Hashem chavtzoi, he desires Torah Hashem, uvisoy rasoy, and his Torah yaga, he meditates yom v'layla, day and night. So first you start off learning it's Torah Hashem, but then you get a handle on it and it becomes your Torah. The Amar Rava said, "La'olam yilmad adam Torah v'achach yega." A person should learn Torah and try to get a lot of yediyas, like what we're doing in Daf Yomi, and then you can meditate on some parts of Torah and go deeper. Shenema b'Torah Hashem, the Ahadar v'Seiras yega. First, try to complete the Torah Hashem, get a big broad picture, and then you can meditate. Because if you meditate on something and you didn't see the bigger picture, your meditation will lead to false results. The Amma Rava said, La'olam ligras inish v'afakav demishtaka. Here Rava is saying that sometimes you find, let's say in yeshivas, they put the kids to learn hard stuff, and they're not gonna get it. They'll forget it as soon as like the 5th or 6th grade is over. So the Gemara Rava says a person should learn and try to learn, and even though you forget it, and even if you're not going to know what you're saying, you read it, you know how to type shit, and you have no idea what it's talking about, but it's too difficult. But eventually, it sinks in somehow. Shenema garsha nafsa the sava, garsa ksiv like ksiv tachna. Pasuk says, "My soul broke because of my desire." In other words, I broke it into a piece. I didn't grind it. I didn't get it into a fine piece. But sometimes it's hard. It breaks apart. You think you lost it, but later on you find it. Rava gives another question. Ksiv, the pasuk says al gape, uksiv al kisei. The pasuk describes Torah. Sometimes it feels like you're sitting on a wing, an unsturdy place, and then the Torah says al kisei. When you're learning Torah, you're sitting on a chair. So, b'schira al gape. First, you have to learn. Gape could also mean alone, without any students. Ubsoif al kisi. Then, if you practice a lot, learning by yourself, then eventually you'll have students on a chair. Ksiv b'roish meraimim, uksiv alei derech. First, you're in the heights, and then you're on the road. What does it mean? B'tchila b'roish meraimim. First, you're all the way in the heights. You go into private places to study. Ula b'soif, in the end, alei derech, then you'll become a teacher for many, many people, providing guidance. But you can't just start off right away, you finished high school and base medrash. Now you want to be a teacher. It doesn't work that way. You need to have years of private study, and then eventually it comes out. Ula Rabbi. Ula had a contradiction. Ksiv, the pasuk says, "Shei mayim bibarecha." Uksiv noizlim betoich beirecha. Uh, first it says, "Drink water from your pit," and then it says it flows from your well. So basically, the idea is that uh, first the betchila say mibarcha. First, you drink from your own pit, and then it ends up you finish it. And then you'll be able to come up with new ideas. First, you drink it all in, and then again, same idea that you drink it all in first, and then you'll find that it flows. Amar Rava, Amar Rav Chaim, Amar Rav Huna. My diksiv hain mehevel yibat v'koyvetz al yad yarba. So he darshans from this pasuk. Rav Huna teaches you an idea. Im oisa adam teirasei chaviles chaviles. If you try to learn Torah in bundles, you try to learn too much. You're learning 6 blot a day. It's too much for you, right? Misma'eh, then you're going to lose it all. You're going to be less accomplished. In koyvetz al yad, but if you tried it in a handful, you do a handful at a time, yirba, you'll increase it. There's some people that are constantly, they constantly looking for vertlach and vertlach and vertlach, and they print out stacks of Torah, and they're constantly reading this Torah and that Torah and that Torah, and they're flooding their mind. I know why they're doing it, because they feel accomplished and busy, but that's busy consuming. And if you're too busy consuming and not really internalizing what you're learning, then you're not gaining much. You're not gaining much. There's a dopamine fix. You get a good vart, a good this, this. But a person has to learn, practice, repeat it over in his own words, and find out how it relates to his own life. That's called learning. Amar Rava, but Rava noted, Yodi l'Rabbanan l'hal milsi, the young students know this, that they should learn pieces, the avrele, and nevertheless they violate this rule. I was lucky. I did it, try to absorb too many things at one time. Somehow it stuck with me. What does the pasuk says? Lo yachreitz remiyat sidai. A person who is lazy will not live long. What does that mean? Lo yichya v'lo yarach yomim tzayed haramai. A lazy trapper will not live too long. In other words, he's going to trap things but lose it quickly. A lazy person who tries to get it all in without reviewing and doing it the hard way, he's going to lose it all. Rav Sheshes says, Sayed Haramai Yachre. Someone who is shrewd, Ramai could also mean shrewd, he's going to live long. Rav Dimi laid it out in a parable to understand what learning Torah is and how you maintain what you learn. You retain what you learn. A guy was catching birds. If he caught a bird, and he breaks its wing, shall rishayna of the first bird, then he will keep all what he caught, because as soon as he catches one and breaks the wing, it's not going to fly away. Vimlav. But if he just keeps catching birds, as soon as he catches a few of them, the other few that he caught fly away. So it's very hard to learn something and just stop. And I'm not learning anything further. It's hard work, and then to review it in your mind and to say, what did I gain from it, and how can I apply it, and things like that, so that it stays with you. That comes hard work, but hard work means you're giving something. You're actually not just receiving something, but you're actually using your mind the other way. The Gemara Darshans, Amri Debei Rab Yanai. A guy who learns Torah is like a tree that's replanted by the waters. Amri Debei Rab Yanai Ke'ech Shasov Like Eitz Natui. So why do we refer to somebody who learns Torah as a tree that's being replanted in a few places, not a tree that's planted in one place? So this teaches you a very big concept. You can't learn from Torah. If you learn Torah from one rabbi, you never will see a simin bracha with the learning. In other words, if you want to see a bracha with it, you have to learn from many different teachers. Everybody has their own style. Amalei Rav Chizda said, Rabbanim, I want to tell you this teaching. And I'm afraid that you're going to leave me and go to another rabbi. He told his students, if they learn from me, just one rabbi, you'll never see a siman bracha. So his students, Shafku v'azal kamei de Rava, they all got up and wanted to go to Rava to learn. So Rav Chizda explained, Hani mili svara. When it comes to getting different ways of thinking, yes, learn from many different rabbis. Ava Gemara, tradition, halacha, the way to do things, right? Or what the text is of your learning, then merav echad adav. Then it's better to learn from rabbi. You can't learn, from, if you're not Svardik, you learn from a Svardik way of davening, and then an Ashkenaz way of davening, and then you're chayim v'shalom. But you're not going to. That's not what we're referring to. To get different ideas, different ways of thinking, to make your mind think differently, then you learn from different rabbis. Kehecha, the reason is we go to Amud Beis, so you don't get confused in the different languages and the different ways that the Girsa set up. We're going to learn another 4 minutes just to catch up on this stuff. It says you should divide your waters. Waters is Torah. Divide it up. So Rav Tamchen Chaniloi said, a person should divide his years into thirds. If you're going to live 120 years, shlish b'mikra, the first 40 years you should learn Chumash, shlish b'mishnah, first 40 years, the next 40 years you should learn Mishnayos, and shlish b'talmud, the next 40 years you should learn Gemara. So the Gemara says, Mi yadik inish kamachai, does a man know how long he's going to live? Maybe he's not going to live 120 years. So why should he do it this way? Answers the Gemara, Ki kamrina b'yoyme. During the typical day, you should learn, or the typical week, you should learn, dedicate 2 days for Chumash, 2 days for Mishnayos, 2 days for Talmud. Nowadays, we learn Talmud Bavli, which is a mixture of Mishnayos, Gemara, and Tanakh. But generally, a person is required to divide it in thirds and actually finish Tanakh, and finish Halacha, and finish the Gemara. Asher piri yitem be'itoy. A Talmud Chacham, a person who studies Torah, will give fruits in its time. What does it mean in its time? If you have a set time of learning, like we do, Baruch Hashem, then v'leu lo yibal. Then nothing is you're not going to lose anything. Your leaves are not going to rub out. But if you're all over the place, the teacher and the student, a rush is somebody who is like a feather in the wind. You can blow this way or that way. You have to have set times, phones off. We're here learning. And then you'll have that strength, and that will never wane in your old age. Amar Rabba Abba, Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rav. Why does the pasuk says Ki Rabim Chalolam Hipilo? Torah made a lot of wounded people. What's a wounded people by Torah? It says yes, there are wounded Talmidei Chachamim. Sometimes you find a student who is too brazen that he didn't reach the years that he should be old enough to paskin, umayra, and he's paskening. So that means that Talmud shagil layra ve'enamara. Sometimes you find the opposite: a student that is good paskin and he's not paskening. So you have sometimes people who paskin too early, and sometimes you have a student that really should be paskening because we need him, and he's just too shy about the whole thing. How old does a person have to be totally? He could paskin on his own. Ad mem shnin. He has to be 40 years old. Says the Gemara, but Rava was paskening already when he was younger than 20 years old. For the Gemara, Hasan b'Shavin, he was a prodigy. So therefore, Rava is the exception. Then the Gemara continues another 2 minutes, and then we'll stop. V'aleu lo yibal. your leaves will not rot, which is a sign of total success. When a person engages in Torah, he has total success. What does that mean? So first the Gemara, Amarav Acha bar Avda Amarav, Va'amri lo Amarav Acha bar Abba Amarav Hununa Amarav, Shafila Sichas Chulin Shel Tamidei Chachamim Tzricha Talmud. Once someone is considered a Talmud Chacham, even his mundane speech require attention learning. Shnema Voleu Layibo. You could watch the way he talks, even when he talks mundane matters, secular matters. You could learn something from that as well. The choil asher yase yatzliach. Amar Rab Yishlu ben Levin here will end. This idea is written in the Torah, repeated in the Navi, and repeated a third time in the Ksuvim. What's the idea? If you're busy and you're committed to Torah, your investments will be successful. Your possessions will be successful and bring you success. Shenema, Torah tells you, you're going to be successful. So again, if you meditate in Torah Yom of Laila, you'll be successful in all your ways. And here we're going to end. The first Tehillim, if you do that, anything that you're going to do, you're going to find success. And that's the blessing of someone who is Isaac in Torah, that's his preoccupation. Okay, we'll stop Bez Hashem over here.